Hey guys, I'm Hema.
And I'm Lindsay.
And welcome to our first episode of our podcast.
First off, we would like to thank you guys for listening to us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. We are now on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. We also have social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter. So yeah, again, just thanks for listening. Please be kind to us because this is our very first podcast.
Nice comments only.
Nice comments only. I mean, we will take criticism from you guys. Criticism. Just let us know how we sound. Let us know how our mics are. Yeah.
Yes, that for sure. Let us know how we sound.
Yeah, if you hear like background noise, let us know that too.
We're still newbies, so we would like to make sure that at least we're kind to you guys' ears. Not scratchy or anything. We did want to start off this podcast by kind of, I guess, talking about ourselves for a little bit. And yeah, I guess I'll start. Well, my name's Hema. I feel like when you start like the first day of school, they make you stand up. And
that's what we should do. Stand up right now. Tell us your name, where you're from.
That's how I feel. I feel like we're like, it's first day of school. And they're like, okay, everybody's going to go around and say a little bit about themselves.
And you're so nervous just sitting there waiting.
I would hate that so much.
Me too. We have anxiety, so that makes sense.
Well, yeah. And I'm not, whenever I meet somebody, like they automatically think I'm shy. And I don't consider myself shy. I consider myself quiet. I keep to myself a lot. But I'm not shy.
You ain't quiet to me.
In those instances, when you have to talk in front of a group, especially when you're like in middle school or high school, that shit was nerve-wracking. Nerve-wracking to my core. Like I hated it, but
same.
Here we are.
I mean, yes, same. But yeah, with somebody with anxiety, like you or me, I would sit there and just play it over and over in my head. Like, what am I going to say? What's the detail I'm going to tell about myself? The fun fact. What is it? What's fun about me?
Yes. My hands would be sweating. And I'd be like, oh my goodness. Be like, oh, just say like what you like to do over the weekend. And I'm like, I like to just sit in my room and play The Sims for like 8 hours.
Right. I play music videos.
I don't really like hanging out with people. I like
I don't go anywhere. Sometimes I ride my bike.
Well, again, my name is Hema. I'm from Dallas. I was born and raised here in Dallas. My parents are originally from Mexico. They came here when they were like in their early 20s. Actually, no. My mom was in her early 20s. My dad has been here since he was 17 years old, which to me is so insane that he's been here that long. But
it's a long time.
It is a long time. He was a baby when he came over here by himself. I do have a little brother. He is 4.5 years younger than me. I want to say I have a big family. For one, I'm Mexican. I have a shit ton of aunts and uncles and cousins. But we're not that close. It's technically, I consider my family just my mom, my dad, and my little brother. So it's just the four of us. We lived in Dallas for a good, I want to say 11 or 12 years. Till then we moved to Garland. And that's pretty much where I guess my home base is back in Garland.
We are in Texas. Probably should have said that just because people, I know Dallas is common sense, but people might be like, Garland, where is that?
True. We're Texas gals.
We are. If you can't tell, y'all.
If you can't tell. But yeah, so I think I've told you before that I went to Catholic school, right? I was in private school.
Yep.
Okay. So I went to private school for at least the first part of my childhood. My parents stuck me in school right when I was 3. They just had enough put me in school. When I talked to my dad about it, he just, obviously your parents want the best for you and they just wanted me to get the best education I can. So I was in private school. And on top of that, one of the main reasons they wanted me to start off as a toddler was because my first language was Spanish. My first words were in Spanish. And so one of the reasons why they stuck me in school early was so I can learn English. So I am bilingual.
That's awesome.
But anyways, I did go to private school. It was a Catholic school. Shout out to Holy Trinity. I did go there from preschool all the way up to second grade. Yeah, second grade. One of the reasons why I stopped going was obviously private school ain't cheap. My
Oh
parents were
yeah.
paying for it monthly. Once I got to second grade, I think at that point my little brother was getting to the age where he was about to start, but they couldn't afford to have two kids in private school, and they didn't want us to be separated. That meant me transitioning from private school to public for third grade. Let me tell you, when I say it was a transition, I was shook to my core at how public school was. In private school, you're stuck with the same class throughout your grade. Like you never, you know how in public school, how there's like 5 classes of third graders, right?
Yeah.
It's like a whole, what is it, like maybe 100's too much.
Uh, it's been so long, but
It
I mean,
could be.
it
It
depends
has
on the
been so
school.
long.
Depends on the school and the city and where you're from.
I want to say like for us, we had like at least 5 classes of like homeroom for third grade, but I could be tripping. In private school, it was just about maybe 18 of us around so, and we all grew up together, like from toddler age up until 8. So you always had the same group of friends all the time. And then
True.
fast forward to public school, to where you have it's a whole big group of third graders, and you don't keep the same friends every year. I can remember a couple of friends I had in third grade that by fourth grade we hated each other, and then by fifth grade it was like a whole different group. It's insane. But I mentioned that only because I feel like I started getting into my quiet phase when I went into public school, because I guess immediately I was like, well, nobody knows me. I don't know anybody. And then on top of that, you expect me to like at least be friendly with all of these kiddos. And I'm like, nah, that ain't gonna happen. So I kept to myself. I'm one of those people who I'm not very good at approaching people to be my friend. I'm one of those that I will wait for you to approach me, which I'm sure it's not the best way to make friends, but I've just always been that way. And even till this day, I'm still that way. I think it was just a hard adjustment from sticking with your same people for a long time and then moving on to somewhere where there's all this group and you have to do your best to stand out. And I never did that. To me, I was just like, I'm just going to keep being me, keeping to myself. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. I mean, I did make some friends in public school. Like, I'm not going to say that I didn't. A couple of them I still talk to this day. But for the most part, it was a little hard. Like, I know I struggled a little bit through third all the way to fifth with at least being myself and communicating, which also is the start of my anxiety was during those times. Fast forward just a little bit, at sixth grade, we moved to Garland. And so I still stayed in that same elementary school, because back in the day, elementary would go from kindergarten to sixth. So I was still in elementary in sixth grade. So they kept me there for a bit while still living in Garland. But then the following school year, I went to a whole new different school, whole new different middle school at that. Middle school for me was the worst. I hated it. I don't like to think about those times. They just don't bring good memories to me at all. So then I'm thinking, well, crap, like I barely started getting adjusted to these people right here and making some friends, and now like here I go again, moving on to a whole different school, and you're a preteen. Now you have a big group of seventh graders, a big group of eighth graders, and now you're trying to make sure you even stand out there. And obviously I didn't. Kept to myself a lot. I did also make a couple of good friends in seventh grade that I still keep in contact to this day. But middle school for me was it was rough. I won't go into too much detail now because I do plan on talking about it like maybe at a later date. But one big part that I skipped over in my preschool days was I suffer from chronic kidney disease. I got really, really sick when I was 4 years old. I was in the hospital for at least 2 weeks, I want to say. I don't remember. This was a long time ago. Ever since then, my kidneys have just never been up to par. I have been in and out of doctor's offices for as long as I can remember. And a lot of those health issues have caused my body to just not function properly and not develop in the way it's supposed to develop. So I say that because, you know, fast forward to here coming to 7th grade, I was about 12, 13, which is the age that a normal girl goes through her puberty days. And I was very delayed. On top of that, my kidneys were giving me an issue to where I started retaining a lot of water and I gained weight. I gained some weight when I was 13 years old, and that did cause me to have a lot of self-esteem issues that have unfortunately followed me to present day. I just wasn't happy with the way I looked. That pinnacle moment of my youth really did affect me now as an adult. I mean, I really do think it did. I still suffer from self-esteem issues and self-body issues. It's just something that just doesn't go away.
And see, you're not alone in this. So that's why it's good that you are sharing with people. You're like, yes, it's hard for us to share those stories, but people need to know that, because I know there's a lot of people that they suffer with self-esteem issues. And it probably comes from elementary, middle, high school,
so it just brought a whole new level of anxiety for me after that happened. Here we go, moving on into high school. I told myself, I need to be a little different. I need to do something different. I need to at least stand out. And so I decided to start taking dance. But my number one priority in dance was lose weight. And then with that said, here we go on to high school. I also joined the drill team. I didn't stick with it as long as I wanted to, also for the health reasons that it just prevented me from really fully going into dance. But I am grateful that I did it because it did help me at least change a little bit of how I was when I was in middle school. And so high school wasn't as bad as middle school. I did enjoy it. I did make a lot of friends that I still talk to, and high school was a good time sometimes. I met my husband in high school. We met junior year. So Texas has this thing where you take the state tests. What were they called? Tax test?
Yeah, tax. First it was like TOS, and then they changed it to tax.
Tax testing, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah.
But how you pronounce it? I'm saying tax.
Yeah, it's like tax, like TAAKS. I remember tax. Correct me if we're wrong, but I know it was a tax.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking at a picture right now. Oh, that brings back memories. Tax test. Texas Assessment of Knowledge and Skills. Anyway, so tax testing. 10th grade, we had to take the chemistry tax test. I was pretty studious in middle school and high school, and I don't like failing. And I failed my chemistry tax test by 2 questions. By 2 questions. And in doing that, for junior year, I had to take a remedial science class, which I was devastated. I hated it. Like, I was so mad because all these remedial classes, and I don't want to offend anybody, but it was a bunch of the bad kids. I wasn't a bad kid in early high school. I just wasn't. I was a good student. I did my work. I did what I had to do. I was put in a classroom with a bunch of kids who, don't give a fuck about being there,
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, I mentioned that because that's where I met my husband, was in chemistry remedial science. He didn't come into the class until a little bit after spring break. I don't know why he got in so late into the semester. He doesn't know either. I asked him before, and he's like, I don't know. They just put me in there. And I'm like, all right, well, anyways. They put him next to me, and that's how we met. I mean, again, I was always the quiet girl, and he just came up to me and started talking to me. At first, I only thought he talked to me because he did copy off my work. I was just like, oh, but he's just talking to me because he wants the answers. It's whatever. I didn't really care. If you needed answers, I was always the one to hook you up. So I was just like, whatever. His name is Armando, by the way, so I'll just start saying Armando instead of my husband. He was my high school sweetheart, as cheesy as that sounds. Yeah, that's where I met the hubby.
I do believe everything happens for a reason. I always tell you this. So I'm a firm believer in that.
That was high school. I did graduate. Class of '08. Hey.
Hi.
Hey. Class of '08.
08, don't hate.
And '08, don't hate.
I remember chanting that in the hallways. 08, don't hate.
Oh my gosh, seriously, that's one thing I do miss about high school is just senior year. Senior year was so much fun. Towards the end of my senior year, I got my first job. Well, okay, I take that back. I did work for a little bit towards the end of my junior year, but I don't really like to consider that my first job because I only lasted there for 2 weeks. It was at a thrift store.
Yeah, I don't know if that counts.
I worked there for a little bit. The only reason why I didn't stick around was, unfortunately, we had like a personal family emergency that happened during that time that I was working, and I had to take time off. And so they didn't want me to. They were like, well, no, you just started. So I'm like, well, hell no. I had a family emergency. Bye. So I did what I call my first job, which is working at a movie theater called United Artists, which is where me and Lindsay meet. And we'll go into that. Like, I think we'll have like a little separate discussion after this and talk about how we really officially met. But that's where we met. We met working at United Artists. It's a movie theater. I worked there that whole, I want to say I started like in March of 2008, and I stayed there until September of 2008. It wasn't a long job, but also, I mean, I'll get back to why I quit later on.
But, oh yeah, we'll get all into that. Like, yeah, at the end, I want to talk about that job and just all that.
Yeah. We'll get into that. I didn't last there long, but it honestly was one of my favorite jobs till this day. It was so much fun. I mean, who wouldn't want to work at a place where you get to watch movies for free?
Yep.
And also hang out with your friends at that. Fast forward a little bit to the college days. I did go to college, or I attempted to. So again, backtracking a little bit, my parents are very strict parents. I turned 18 and I did rebel. Sorry, Mom and Dad. I guess that the freedom that I had once I turned 18 and once I got out of high school, I just didn't know how to handle it. It was almost too much freedom. I was just too free and especially after being in school since being 3 years old, I had enough. Like, I was tired. I was done with the people telling me what to do. I was done with the work. I just didn't want to. So I went for a couple of years and I was done for. I told myself I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to work, make some money, and just have a good old time. And that good old time is what I call the dark ages. I was just really irresponsible. I mean, and again, we'll probably have like another podcast dedicated to our dark days. But I mean, I would say I was like high, at least 90% during those early 20s, high and drunk. I had no consideration for my life whatsoever. It was either, I'm going to have the time of my life, and if I die, I die. It's crazy to say now, but that's just how I thought back in the day. And again, I know I mentioned earlier that I was in and out of doctor's visits throughout my whole childhood up to my youth. I turned 18 and I told my parents I did not want to go to the doctor no more for checkups, because I have to go for checkups every 3 to 6 months for my kidneys to make sure they're still functioning okay and they're not derailing. So during that period, I wasn't getting checked. I didn't care. I've had enough. They never really figured out what was wrong with me anyways back then. It was just, she has kidney issues, just give her this and move on with her life. So yeah, I decided to get clean and pee normal, I guess. Stop being somebody that I wasn't. Slowly but surely got my life cleaned up, started going to the doctor. At that age, I also got diagnosed with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. I want to also dedicate a podcast to this. Short story, it's just something that just affects you, having from irregular periods to not being able to easily lose weight. Here we are now, moving on to late 20s, 30s. Is this considered early 30s if you're just on year one?
No, okay. I refuse.
Can I still say late 20s?
Yeah, I was going to say, I say this is like post 20s, about to start into those 30s.
Oh, late 20s.
It's hard to say, like, yeah, late 20s, like late.
I'd like to say that my life is pretty okay. It could be better. I work full time at a great company. I'm married now. We have our own place. Things are okay. My health isn't where I'd like it to be. I don't know. We'll get into that another time. Here I am now. I'm doing okay. Again, I could do better, but no complaints. I can be a little pessimistic, but I'm somebody who is really trying to look at the positive outlook in life. I mean, that's it for me. That's me.
Well, all right. That's all,
Yeah.
Hannah.
We're going to go ahead and take a little break, but when we come back, I will hand Lindsay the mic, and then she will go on and tell us her side of the story. Hey y'all! I wanted to take a quick minute to talk to you guys about Anchor, the app we're currently using right now to create this podcast. One of the best things that I love about Anchor is that not only can you record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, it is absolutely free to use. Not only that, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. And guess what? You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's literally everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So get to it. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Happy podcasting.
All right. So a little about me. Most of my friends know this already, but I was born in England, born in Chelmsford. It's a little town. I do have a lot of family over there. I have aunts, uncles, cousins.
Can I ask you a question, though, about being born in England that I've been curious about?
Mm-hmm.
Are you like, you know how if you're born here, you're a citizen of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like a citizen of England?
I am. I actually do have dual citizenship.
That is awesome.
I know. A lot of people don't know that. I never really share that with anybody. I just don't talk about it. But
I was curious. I mean, I bring that up because me and my brother have been trying to get dual citizenship in Mexico, but it's just a little bit tougher. Obviously, we weren't born there, but we're able to because of our parents. But there's no time. But I was curious about you, so that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, so my dad was from England and my mom was from here. And it's actually a pretty cool story how that all came to be. I don't even know if I ever told you, but they were actually on a TV show. And the name of the show slips my mind. I have to find it somewhere. But they were on a show about how they met. And I remember watching it from backstage at the time. I was probably like maybe 9 or so. My grandfather, my mom's father, went to England on a trip, and he met my dad somehow. I don't know how that came to be, but they met, and I told my dad, I have this daughter that lives back in the States, and she loves to write letters, because we're talking about way back in the day. You know, this was the 80s. I don't know the exact year, sometime in the 80s. So that was a big thing back then, was writing letters, pen pals. You didn't have all that technology and phone and texting and all of that.
No social media.
Exactly. No social media. So we're going to talk about all that. That's a whole other topic too. So she's like, I have this daughter back in the States. She loves to write letters. Would you be interested in that? And so I guess he either got my dad's information or gave him my mom's. Either way, they started writing letters to each other, and they would share photos. And that went on for 10 whole years. Back and forth, writing letters. And it wasn't even love at first. Like my mom said, it was just started off as a friendship. I have a pen pal over there in England, and they just talked about any and everything. And then my mom flew to England to meet him for the first time, like I said, around 10 years later. And the way that she told me when I was a kid was that it was love at first sight. She saw him. She knew he was the one. So they fell in love there. At some point, I'm still like fuzzy on the details, but they did come back here to the States and got married. So they did get married here in Dallas, in the house actually that I grew up in. And then they moved back to England, and I believe they lived there for a year, and that's when they had me. and then they moved back here permanently. That's the story of how they met and how I came to be. I mean, I had like a normal childhood for the most part. Something a lot of people don't know, I don't even think I ever told you, was that I went to different schools almost every single year. And people would ask me, are you an Army brat? No, my parents were not in the military. They just moved around a lot. We've always lived in Texas, but we moved all over the state, just in and around the Dallas area. So I was in a different school for like preschool, then kindergarten. It was like kindergarten through like, I think first grade. Then I was like different school for second grade, third grade, fourth, fifth. Went all the way like that till I got to high school, until I finally stayed with the same high school from half of my sophomore year to my senior year. Emmett J. Conrad High School in Dallas, shout out. But yeah, so that was really hard because you talked about it a little bit earlier about making friends and trying to keep the same, friends like when you went to private school and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So same situation kind of where I didn't have friends that I had like all the way through like childhood or anything, just because I moved schools and cities like every year. I don't know why they did that to us, but it is what it is what it is.
Yeah, that's a little rough.
Yeah, I just remember like going to all these different schools, meeting all these different people, and having to start over every single year. I remember middle school. I did go to private school a little bit, like you said, when you were really young, but I went to private school for just 1 year. It was my 8th grade year, and a little before that, backstory as to why we went to private school was I grew up in Dallas public schools. So if you went to a Dallas public school, you know that they were not the greatest. I don't know how they are now, but they were pretty bad. I don't want to like talk down on my school, but I went to Bryan Adams High School in Dallas for my freshman year, and it was not great. So that's why I transferred to Emmett J. Conrad High School. At the time, at least when I went there, it was very run down and the desks were all written and carved in, and it was just really bad. So Emmett Conrad, the school that I ended up graduating from, was brand new at the time. I was in the very first graduating class of that school, which is a really cool thing. So yeah, I mean, I haven't been there since I graduated, but supposedly they have it in the hallway, or they told us they were going to. We all signed a cap and gown, and they posted it in the hallway of the first class ever. I got to go back and see that if it's still there. Okay, so going back to the whole private school thing. So going to Dallas public schools, like prior to that, it was like 6th grade and 7th grade, I was in Dallas. And then my mom moved me and my 2 brothers, which I probably should have said that too, but I have 2 younger brothers. They're twins, 3 years younger, so they're 27. They're fraternal twins, so they're not identical, which is great for me because that would be horrible. Not being able to tell them apart. They're definitely different. They're the same in some ways, but they're very different in other ways. But yeah, I was very blessed to have a good childhood for the most part. And then my dad passed when it was right before I turned 12. I was 11. And that definitely changed a lot for us as a family, because then it was just me and my mom and my 2 brothers. And then that's when we moved into my grandmother's house for a little bit. The Dallas schools being so bad as they were, my mom decided to move my brothers and I to our aunt and uncle's house. They lived in Allen, Texas, which is a really nice little area, really nice neighborhood where my aunt and uncle lived. So we moved there. And at the time we didn't know this because we were so young. I was in the 7th grade, so that would make me around 13, 14, somewhere in there. So we moved there so we could have a better school district. And like I said, at the time we didn't know, but my mom and my aunt, my mom's sister, had discussed us living with her like permanently until we graduated high school. So we were going to be there 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. And I had no idea. At the time, I just thought, oh, this is like a year thing, and we'll go back and see my mom. But yeah, that wasn't the case. So we lived there for a year, and then we came back, lived with my mom again after I left the 7th grade, went into 8th grade. I started 7th grade here in Dallas first. I should have mentioned that first. And then when we moved to Allen to live with our aunt and uncle, I had to repeat the 7th grade because they told us that their school district was 2 years ahead of Dallas. I guess Dallas was just so behind. So we had to repeat our grades. Me, the 7th grade, and my brothers, I guess, were like in the 4th grade. So yeah, that sucks. So I went from being class of 08 to now I'm class of 09, but I wouldn't trade it because, like I said, we were the first graduating class in my school, and that's awesome. But yeah, so we moved back here to Dallas with my mom after 7th grade. And then that's when I started attending private school. So my brothers and I both went to St. Pius Catholic School. So shout out to them. But there's also a lot more that goes into that, like Hema said, we'll get into it another time about the whole religion. And it was a Catholic school, and we didn't grow up Catholic. But we just went there because it was a good private school at the time. But they were very, very strict, and yes, very expensive. So, but yeah, it's like you were saying earlier about the whole, going to Catholic school and how there's, those cliques. She talked about how you were in it, right? From kindergarten through, would you say like 3rd grade? Right?
Yeah, from preschool to
preschool,
grade.
Sorry. Yeah, so preschool through 3rd grade. So you ran with those same people. Well, I had the same problem when I was in the 8th grade, except it was like opposite. Like they were all together from like preschool, because the school I went to, it was either preschool or like pre or kindergarten, or I don't even remember, but I think it was kindergarten. I went kindergarten through 8th grade, and I started going to that school in the 8th grade. So you can only imagine like feeling like the black sheep. So when I started going there, it was just like I was the new girl. Everybody had known each other literally their whole lives. But yeah, those are some of the best times too. I loved going to that school. I met some great friends. Nobody made me feel like an outcast. So that was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely feel you on that. We didn't last very long. I mean, we made it through the school year, and then we wanted to go into private school for high school, which was Bishop Lynch. That was the school that was down the road. But we didn't end up going because our grades weren't, the greatest for what, they need in, I guess, private school. And plus, like I said, they were very expensive. High school, though, I said, that's where it's at least for me. I know a lot of people don't have good experiences in high school, but mine was fun. When I went to Bryan Adams for my freshman year, I did play softball and basketball. I don't know if I ever told you that.
I didn't know you played softball.
Yeah, I did. I actually loved softball, like more than I liked basketball. I think I was just better at it. Because when I played basketball, I was the only white girl on the team, and everybody was cold, and I was like not the best. But I played it anyway, just because I used to play it growing up. We had a basketball hoop in our backyard, the house we grew up in. So we would shoot hoops. So I was like, why not go for the basketball team? But then I wasn't that great. But it was fun. But yeah, like I said, softball was really my thing. I actually played first base. They put me on that because I'm really tall. That's a lot of pressure. Being first base, that's pressure. But that was a lot of fun. And then, yeah, JROTC was my thing in high school. That was my baby, like my bread and butter to my high school years. I loved it. I was obsessed with it, wearing the uniform. If you're not familiar with what JROTC is, it's that military class. That's the best way to describe it. You would see us walking around in our little military uniforms, our shiny shoes. I kept myself pristine. I wanted to win all the awards, and I just loved it. It was a lot of fun. I worked my way up to being first lieutenant, where I had my own platoon and I gave commands and ran my own, like I said, my own little platoon. So that was really cool. That's where I have my favorite teacher in the world. I have him on Facebook, but I don't really think he gets on there, but Sergeant Prudhomme. So if he ever listens to this, shout out to you. My high school friends, y'all know who he is. He was the best teacher ever, mentored me, put up with a lot of my antics when I was in high school, because, obviously being young and dumb, you know how we are in school. We would like take the computer chairs out of the classroom and just roll them down the hallway, and he wouldn't know we were out there doing it. We did some dumb things back then. But yeah, those were the best days for sure. I was also in the color guard, which is part of JROTC. Everybody should know what it is because you see them when you watch like football games, the people that come out with the rifles and the flags, like the American flag and the Texas flag, and they do the national anthem. That's the color guard. Yeah. So I did that, and we had competitions. That was a lot of fun. We performed at all the football games, assemblies. Like I said, those were just It's my favorite part of high school for sure. I used to skip class all the time just to go down there to ROTC, even if it wasn't like my period to be there. I would just skip and go hang out with Sergeant Prudhomme and my friends. I remember this one time I was also on, I believe they called it the honor guard, I think. And that was where you would go put out the flag in the morning, like put up on the staff, like outside. And I'll never forget this story because it was like one of my first times ever putting up the flag outside. And apparently we put it upside down and I didn't know there was a right or wrong way. So I go back to class and I get called to the office and they said that someone had passed the school and called and told them, like asked if we were okay. Because apparently if you fly the flag upside down, it means that you're in distress. So somebody drove by and called the school and told, like asked them if everything was okay because it looked like we were under attack or something.
Oh,
so
snap.
I'll never forget that. And I'll never forget now how you're supposed to fly the flag, which is now white toward the clouds, which makes sense, and red toward the ground. But we had done it the opposite way. So now you know.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
So yeah, I didn't either until I think that was like my sophomore year when I first started. That's crazy.
Well, hey, I'm here learning here at 30.
Well, exactly. But you have a pass because you weren't in JROTC. If you were, then you would know that because that was very important to know. And that's how we learn from our mistakes. But I remember getting in a lot of trouble. I had to do push-ups in the hallway in front of everybody in between classes. And
oh, no.
Just good times. That's also when I got my first job. Like you said, I was 17. So I guess you would have been the same age, right, when you started?
I started United Artist in 2000. It was towards the end of my senior year. So I was already 18.
Okay, because I swear I was 17. But we're only 3 months apart. So it's like I'm fuzzy on like the dates.
Mm-hmm.
But it was sometime around then. But yeah, like I said, we'll get to that and all that good stuff. But yeah, that was my first job ever, was working at Regal Galaxy Movie Theater in Garland, Texas. That was a fun job. Free movies. Who wouldn't like that? But yeah, so like I said, didn't move out till I was 23. I did go to college a little bit. Same as Hema. I wish I had stuck with it. I went to Richland Community College for a little bit after I graduated. Yeah, what can I say? I took some classes and then I just kind of stopped going. I was like, this school thing's not for me, which it's not for everyone. Now looking back, being 30, I wish I had stuck with it. But back then, being in my early 20s, I was just like, that's not for me. Me personally, I do wish in a way that I had stuck with it because when I was younger, I did want to be a psychologist. I was really big into psychology. I still am. Maybe, who knows, I might go back and take some classes. It's never too late. Because that's another thing. People say that, it's too late if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. It's never too late to go back to school, take a course. You can even do it online. So, yeah. So I moved out when I was 23, like I said. And then that's when really my stages hit. Whereas, Hema, you said that yours started when you were like 18. Mine started kind of late just because I was still at home till I was 23. So I was still being responsible. And maybe all that caught up to me by the time I was 23. And I was like, okay, I've done my part. I've lived at home for 23 years and, I've helped out and been responsible and mature. So when I moved out for the first time with some roommates, it was like I just lost who I was. And that those were like what you say, I call, same, like the dark ages. Those are the times I look back and it's just like, how am I even still alive? I was stupid. It wasn't me, but same thing. I was just drinking and I wasn't getting high, but my roommates were all, for the lack of a better word, potheads. So that's all they did. Like they smoked all day, every day. And it wasn't supposed to be like that when I moved in. They told me that they were going to keep it under wraps. They wouldn't do it around me, but they got so comfortable. So it was just everywhere. And it was pushed on me at home and at parties. So I smoked some at some points, but I was never really big into that. My thing was always drinking. That was my vice. It was drinking even on my breaks at work. I remember looking back and it's so stupid, but working at one of the restaurants I worked at right when I moved out, I was 24. And we had an Applebee's right down the road. So me and my roommate / coworker would go down the road to Applebee's on our little 1 hour, 2 hour break and would get messed up drunk and then go back to work for our night shift. And then I grew out of my whole dumb phase when I moved out from my roommates when I didn't live there very long. I didn't stay through the lease. That's a whole story in itself. Thankfully, I don't have any of them on my social media, so they shouldn't hear this. But if you do, like, whatever, we're all grown now. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you think that people are your friends, and they're not, especially when you're in your younger ages. Your friends should be people who want the best for you, who are going to look out for you. And these people that I called my friends, that were my roommates, they didn't have my best interest at heart. Those are the people that got me to drink and to smoke and to do things that, I'm not going to say like they were illegal. I mean, they are, but just certain things that were dumb, and the way that they would talk to me, we'd have huge fights. And there was just a breaking point for me where they would just be screaming. And I remember the breaking point when I moved out from that place with my roommates was, and I don't know if I told you this, but was when one of my guy roommates was yelling at me about something, and he called me the C word. And you know how I feel about the C word. Mm-hmm. I do not, like I said, I do not use it like ever. And he called me that, and I just like snapped. And I started looking for another place to live. I didn't care that I was on the lease. I did not care. I tried talking to the office. They told me, too bad, too sad. Like, you have to stay through the lease or you're going to be like charged, blah, blah. So I just moved out secretly. It was the most savage thing I think I've ever done in my life. I was like, I was secretly packing my bags like for like a week. And I would do it like in little segments so that they wouldn't catch on. They didn't really come in my room anyway, but I would just kind of start putting things in little boxes and bags here and there. And I had my date to move out. I was going to go live with actually my boss at the time because she had an extra room in her house. So like I said, I just started packing up. And on the day that I was supposed to move, I had my brothers on call. And when all my roommates left to go to work that day, and I left the lease on the table with my name on it, like, I'm done, and dipped. I blocked all their numbers, and it was over.
Oh, snap.
It's probably the most savage thing I've ever done. I mean, I remember, like, one of my roommates who I thought was my best friend at the time, I remember she did call me before I got my number changed and was just crying her eyes out that, like, how could I do this to them? But again, like I said, sometimes these people, you think they're your friends and you're not. And I realized what was good for me. So I moved on. And then after that, that's when I got my shit together.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Exactly. So it's just like done. Like, I was done being stupid. So yeah, so my brother and I, we were living together in 2015. And then my mom moved in with me after my brother moved out. My grandmother on my mom's side, so it's my mom's mom, we were very, very close. She was like a second mom to me. She helped raise us, especially after my dad passed. We lived in her house for a while she lived there. She helped take care of sending us to private school for that year that we went. She'd pay for us to go to summer camps. She had us grow up in the church. She was very adamant about that with my mom, that we had to grow up in church. So we did. We grew up in the Episcopal Church, which, if you don't know what that is, just research it. It's hard to explain. It's kind of close to Catholics, but not exactly. But yeah, like I said, she was like my second mom. We were very, very close. And then she got throat cancer. It was in the summer of 2015. And she didn't want to go through chemo and all of that. She was already 81 at the time. So, she had lived her life, very happy life. Was married to my grandfather for 50 years before he passed, which was months before my dad passed. So I was 11. But yeah, she had a good life, had 4 kids, including my mom, obviously, and tons of grandkids and great grandkids. But yeah, so after she got cancer, it took over very fast. So she passed in September of 2015, just a few months after she was diagnosed. And at that time, I was crushed. I mean, that was obviously the biggest loss I had had. I mean, yeah, I lost my dad when I was 11, but losing my grandmother at 25, I grew up with her. And like I said, she was like a second mom. And I'm not going to say once I started getting over it, because you never get over those types of things. But once I kind of started to heal, then I lost my mom just 11 months later in August of 2016. And so that loss right there completely just destroyed me, and I haven't been the same ever since. But again, that's going to be another topic for another day. We'll get into loss, but that's just kind of telling you a little bit about me. And then 9 months later after that, I lost my dog. I had to put him down, and I had him for 13 years. He grew up with me. I got him when I was 14, when I was starting that Catholic school, because I just felt out of place. And so I found him. He came to our back door. We took him in. And so I had him till I was 27, and then I had to put him down. So in less than 2 years' time, I'd lost my grandmother, my mom, and my dog that I grew up with. So I feel like I haven't been the same ever since. Loss definitely takes a toll on you, especially losing both your parents and your grandparents. By the time I was 27, it's crazy. So I've definitely grown up a lot. And now it's just me and my brothers. If I didn't have my brothers, I don't know where I would be. I wouldn't have any family. I mean, I do have aunts, uncles, and cousins, but unfortunately, we're just not very close. Again, another topic, another day. But that's pretty much it. I mean, it's kind of pushed me into depression, which, again, another topic, another day. But, that also kind of connects to, like, the whole, like, how our friendship kind of, I'm not going to say it, like, split, but yeah, because, like, we met, it was, like, high school, and then we were going to different school districts. So you were in Garland School District, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you were in Garland, and I was in Dallas. So we had, different schools, different friends, whatever. But we did always keep in contact through Facebook. Facebook was kind of starting to be a thing back then. That was like 2012 was when it kind of started like being a thing. But I didn't really get into Facebook until I was like in high school. But yeah, we kept tabs on each other that way. We hit each other up like birthdays and different occasions. And then like when I lost my grandma, my mom, my dog, you were there through all of those. Like, yeah, we weren't super close at that time because we were going through our different whatever, but we still stayed like connected. But it wasn't until 10 whole years later after, Regal that we met up again working for Dallas hospitals. That was my favorite job. I said we were newborn hearing screeners, but I remember you telling me about the job when, I don't remember if it was 2015, I think it was. It might have been.
Yeah, and that's something that I left off from my little spiel, but I did, for a while, I was a newborn hearing screener. I think I did that job for about 5 years or so. And so, yeah, the first time I think I reached out to you, I was still working for the first company that I was working for, and that was around 2015.
Okay. Yeah. So, 2015, but then my grandmother and then my mom. So I put all that stuff on hold. I remember you reaching out and saying,
Mm-hmm.
Hey, like we're hiring, you should come work here. And I was all about it. I remember telling my mom about it. She was happy about it. And then, like I said, all that stuff went down. So I put it on the back burner. And then it wasn't until the summer of 2017 that
Mm-hmm.
then, you got me in, put in the good word. And yeah, started working together again. It's crazy 10 whole years later.
It's crazy because when we both met each other, we were at such a young age. Like, I know 18, like you think you're grown, but you're still a baby at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was completely different
Mm-hmm.
of who I was as a person at 18 compared to when we reconnected again at the age of what, like 27?
Yeah, we were
right?
27.
We were about 27.
Yeah.
We were completely different. I mean, we spent a decade without really knowing each other, knowing what we went through,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing how much we've changed as a person compared to that 18-year-old, Hema and Lindsay, because I think about our Regal time and when we used to go to Six Flags and go out to eat and do all this fun stuff. I mean, we didn't have any responsibilities at that point. It was just working just to get out there in the real world and make some money for I guess in my case, for snacks and shopping. Like, that's really where all my money went. And then, yeah, during my dark period, I really wasn't connected to anybody from my past, really, except for the people that were in that present time. But yeah, we didn't know each other then. And even to this day, I feel like maybe if we did know each other back then, maybe we wouldn't have been as great of friends. I mean, I wouldn't
say that because like we had a lot in common. you know, you were going through your phase and I was going through my phase. So we could relate on that. But yeah, at the same time, it's crazy because we were completely different people. Like you said, 17, 18 years old, and then meeting up again 27 first time in person.
No, yeah. Yeah. By the time I was 27, I mean, my life was already a complete 180 compared to how I was in my early 20s. I mean, I love that. I loved doing the hearing screening. That was one of also my favorite jobs as well. Getting to do that. So, I mean, I was glad we reconnected again. It was definitely great.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say now we're stronger than we were back then when we were 18, little babies.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But yeah, you gotta find, like I said, that keychain you told me about.
Yes, we went to Six Flags. Gosh, I guess 2008's how long? 12 years ago?
God, yeah, something like that. When we thought that duck lips and sunglasses were cool.
Yes.
On a roller coaster.
We went to Six Flags about 12 years ago. And I remember still, it was me, you, another mutual friend of ours who also worked at the theater. I want to say her name was Jennifer. I could be wrong.
No, I mean, it's probably Jennifer. I
Jennifer,
have her on
right?
Facebook still. Yeah.
Jennifer and Pablo. And you were driving. You ended up driving that day. And we went to Six Flags and we had a good time, besides me giving everybody a scare. So
yeah, I will never forget that.
a little backstory. So again, I have the most insane health issues. Something I also didn't mention, I also suffer from high blood pressure, which it goes together with the kidney issue. Anywho, I didn't take my medication that day. Again, I was 18, careless. I was like, whatever, I'm going to go have fun at Six Flags. What's the worst that can happen? So I guess the heat got the best of me and just all the walking and I don't know, just everything got, jumbled all together and it just gave me, so I had an episode, I guess you would call it. I didn't feel good. So ended up having to go to Six Flags has what was it, a little clinic? I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, they have a little infirmary. Yeah, a little place.
Yeah, infirmary. Mm-hmm. There you go. I was thinking of that word. They took me to a little infirmary. I still remember. I think I took a 20-minute nap. They gave me water.
I remember you going to sleep.
They gave me water, and then all I can remember next is just, I think all you guys were eventually came in the room. Y'all you good, fam, or what's going on? I'm yeah, I just forgot to take my blood pressure medicine. Sorry. And I think we continued on with our day after that.
Yeah, we did. We did
Tylenol or something.
We were all right. We're you good, fam? Let's go. We're 18.
We're 18. We good. Anywho, besides that scare, I mean, we had a good time at Six Flags, but there's a ride at Six Flags called the Titan, which is considered one of the tallest roller coasters. Well, at the time, at least. I know throughout the years, there's been new ones, but it's called the Titan. And I don't think we were in the first row. Now that I think about it, I'm trying to think, where were we? We're pretty high up there.
I mean, yeah,
we're pretty high up there. And so you know how roller coasters have the little picture, the picture that they take, in one of the drops or something. I want to say me and you decided to go for wearing our shades and doing a kissy face or a duck face at the camera. I want to say that was planned.
I hope it was planned, because if not, we just look like we... I'm going to make a duck face.
I'm going to make a duck face. And so I ended up buying the little keychain. I think that was the cheapest thing at the time.
Yeah.
Whenever you go to the little photo booth area and you get the souvenirs. I bought the keychain, which I need to go look for it at my parents' house. I know it's somewhere. That picture is hilarious. It makes me laugh every time. Just because we look so silly with our shades on and our duck faces. And we're going down a steep hill. And I'm so shook that we were able to pull that pose off and not look like we're falling down. What was it, 60 miles per hour down a drop or something? It's insane. It's funny.
I'm sorry, but that whole thing just cracks me up just thinking about that.
Yeah, if I find it somewhere, I'll show you for sure. And then, hey, we'll probably post it on Facebook to show you guys, because I think it's a pretty funny picture.
I mean, obviously, like I said, yeah, I still have the picture of us with our duck face and sunglasses going up. I want to say it was the Shockwave. Do you think that's right? That one that I
It
have.
may be, yeah.
Because I
It
could
might
have
be
sworn
the
I remember doing it
Shopway.
right before we did the loop-de-loop. And I was like, hurry up and get this. I swear that's what it was. Because I remember taking it and be like, hurry, we're about to go on this loop.
Goodness, man. See, those are instances where I sometimes wish we had social media. Because can you imagine the pics we would have had at being 18, 19, like the kids have today?
Yes.
Like how much,
Exactly.
I don't have that many pictures of me being a teen. Because back then, we had the disposable cameras. I have a few. But you just, and I guess that's also the kind of a blessing in disguise. Back then, we used to just live in the moment more so than we do now. But I also sometimes wish that we had more pictures or more videos to look back on. Because, I mean, I know you mentioned it too. That age, that senior year of high school, junior year of high school was probably the best years that we both had. And, I mean, I like to have our memories about it. But, I mean, it is what it is.
Take lots of pictures and videos. Just do it, because one day you're going to
Yes.
regret it that you did not.
Yes.
You know, even like, because back in the day, like you said, we didn't have all that technology. And like my grandmother and my mom, they were the same in the way that they didn't like their photo taken. So I don't have very many photos like of them as adults. As kids, yeah, they took photos like crazy. I'm sure you're probably, like, your parents probably the same. But like I have tons of photo albums of my childhood and with my mom, my grandparents, parents, all that. But then, yeah, like getting older, it's like they didn't like taking them, and I should have pushed more. So definitely, yeah, take pictures now that you can, because there's many different ways.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we do now as a family is for any birthdays or any time we get together, we do try our best to take pictures. Even though, yeah, especially my mom, she's also very camera shy. My dad don't care. My dad will be like, "Hey, let me just do this pose and I'll take a picture of me," which I love that about him. But
Awesome.
we are very camera shy, but I also try to snap a pic every chance that I get, because I mean, we're all only here for a moment, and so might as well have those memories to look back on. And I honestly, I'm somebody who I'm always really nostalgic hungry. I love having that nostalgic feeling, even though sometimes, it gets, you get emotional sometimes when you think about nostalgic stuff or things back in the day, but I love it. There's times when if I'm having a bad day or it's just one of those days where it's just riddled with anxiety, I do like to go back and either watch old home videos or look through old pics and just feel that energy you had when you were a kid,
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I don't even think my brothers understand why I like taking so many pictures and videos. Every time it's a special occasion or we go anywhere, I have to get them, because it's like you said, we're only here for a short amount of time, and when we're gone, I want people to be able to look back and remember moments and, be able to show generations after us as well.
Yeah.
So.
And so that also brings it back to why I kind of wanted to start this podcast. I don't think we really got into that, but I've been thinking about making a podcast for a while. It's just something that's always been intriguing to me. I think one of the main reasons why we even decided to pull the trigger on this was also we are in a pandemic. A lot of us are quarantined at home, and we figured, hey, we got the time. Let's just go for it. And so I think this is also going to be a thing where me and you, as we get older, can go back. If we end up doing this for the long run, great. If we don't, at least we have something to go back on and being like, hey, this is what we did in our 30s. We ventured off into this little adventure and see what we make of it. And we have that to remember we'll have these recordings to go back on and listen in on them and see what we used to think like when we were 30 years old compared to if we listened to it when we're 60. If we make it to that age, knock on wood.
Oh my God. I hope so. I hope so. But yeah, like I said, it's really good to have to look back on, because we said that 2020 was going to be our year. We're like, yeah, when we're going to be 30, we always talk about this, Hannah and I, like when we're 30, this is going to be our year. And as we know, 2020 has sucked so far. So at least this podcast is something good that comes out of it, I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it. We just kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of our background on, the story of our lives. I apologize if we sound like we're all over the place. Again, this is our first recording. Also, talking about yourself is very difficult. It is very difficult. It's not easy. Again, I know we mentioned in the beginning, it feels like high school again when you're introducing yourself to a class, and it's a little nerve-wracking, so we apologize. Please be nice.
Yes, please be nice. People with anxiety, this is tough, okay? To talk about yourself like this and put yourself out there. I promise it's going to get better, though. We have a lot of good topics. Emma and I have been talking about them. Things we're going to roll out over the next few weeks. So it'll be good.
Yeah, and again, we encourage you guys, if there is anything you guys would like us to talk about, please feel free to leave a comment on our Facebook or send us an email. I think all of our contacts are in our Facebook page, right? Like our email, at least. It's on there.
So yeah, like if you're listening to this on the YouTube, then we're going to have all the links down below, like in the description of the YouTube video. And if not, we also have them posted on the Facebook page, all the links to that. But yeah, we have our email posted on there. The email, I think, is on our personal Facebook pages though, right? If you're friends with us, I think.
Yes, it should be. It should be on there. If not, I think we put it in the description, so they're on there. If you need to contact us in any way, feel free to use any of those platforms to do so. We are constantly checking on them. So we have a special treat for you guys.
Hey.
We want to go ahead and do a little giveaway. This is more so as a thank you to our little small following that we have now for at least being supportive. And so, yeah, the lucky winner will just get a $20 gift card to a food delivery app of their choosing. Right now during quarantine, we're trying our best not to go out there and expose ourselves to all this COVID stuff, but just wanted to give you guys a little thank you and, I don't know, lunch or dinner on us.
In order for you guys to get entered into the drawing, you just have to go in like either our Facebook page or our YouTube channel or Twitter and then share it to your Facebook. We'll make a post when you are listening to this. It's going to be Sunday because we record on Saturdays. So we're going to make a post telling you that, hey, our podcast is up. So like I said, just share that post, like one of our pages or social medias, and we are going to be verifying that. That'll enter you into the drawing to win the gift card. And then next Saturday, when we do our next podcast, we will do a drawing, pick the winner, and when we post it on Sunday, you guys will know who won. So again, thank you guys so much for listening to us on whatever platform you're listening on, and don't forget to tune in next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks.